Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. The outline of our today's lecture comprises brief introduction to physiology, set points and normal ranges, extracellular fluid, differences between extracellular and intracellular fluids, and homeostasis. Physiology is the branch of biology that deals with the normal functions of living organisms and their parts. It is the science that seeks to explain the physical and chemical mechanisms that are responsible for the origin, development, and progression of life. Each type of life has its own functional characteristics. Either these are viruses, large trees, or the complicated human beings. Therefore, the vast field of physiology can be divided into viral physiology, bacterial physiology, cellular physiology, plant physiology, invertebrate physiology, vertebrate physiology, mammalian physiology, human physiology, and many more subdivisions. Cells are the living units of the body. Each organ is an aggregate of many different cells which are held together by intercellular supporting structures. Each type of cell is specially adapted to perform one or a few particular functions. For example, red blood cells, numbering about 25 trillion in human beings, transport oxygen from lungs to the tissues. Red blood cells are the most abundant of any single type of cell in the body. About 75 trillion additional cells of other types perform different functions. For example, muscle cells carry out muscular contractions. Nerve cells carry impulses. Skin cells act as a barrier against external environment. Adipose cells are specialized to store excess energy in the form of triglycerides, and bone cells provide support. Thus, the entire body contains approximately 100 trillion cells. Although many cells differ from one another, all of them have certain basic characteristics that are alike. For example, oxygen reacts with carbohydrate, fat, and protein to release energy in all types of cells. Further, the general chemical mechanisms for changing nutrients into energy are basically the same in all cells. All cells deliver products of their chemical reactions into the surrounding fluids. Almost all cells also have the ability to reproduce additional cells of their own kind. Luckily, when cells of a particular type are destroyed, the remaining cells of this type usually generate new cells until the supply is replenished. Group of similar cells join together to form a tissue. Different tissues join together to form an organ. Different organs join together to form a system, and many systems work together in an organism to maintain homeostasis of the body. About 60% of the adult human body is composed of fluid. This fluid is mainly a water solution of ions and other substances. Most of the fluid is present inside the cells and is called the intracellular fluid. About 1/3 of the fluid is present in spaces outside the cells and is called the extracellular fluid. Extracellular fluid is in constant motion throughout the body. It contains ions and nutrients needed by the cells to maintain life. Thus, all cells live in essentially the same environment, that is the extracellular fluid. The extracellular fluid is also called internal environment of the body or milieu interior. This term was introduced more than 150 years ago by French physiologist Claude Bernard. As long as the proper concentrations of oxygen, glucose, different ions, amino acids, fatty substances, and other constituents are available in this internal environment, cells are capable of living and performing their special functions. There are some differences between extracellular and intracellular fluids. The extracellular fluid contains sodium, chloride, and bicarbonate ions. It also contains nutrients for the cells like oxygen, glucose, fatty acids, and amino acids. Extracellular fluid also contains carbon dioxide that is being transported from the cell to the lungs. It also contains cellular waste products that are being transported to the kidneys for excretion. The intracellular fluid differs significantly from the extracellular fluid. For example, it contains large amount of potassium, magnesium, and phosphate ions. Now, let's define what is meant by a set point. Set point is the physiological target value around which the normal range fluctuates. Normal range is actually that range of values around set point that don't cause reaction by the control center. Or it can also be defined as the restricted set of values that is optimally helpful and stable. Let's elaborate the concept of set point and normal range with the help of examples. The set point for body temperature is 98.4 degree Fahrenheit. The normal range for the body temperature lies between 98 to 98.8 degree Fahrenheit. If the body temperature increases above normal, it can lead to a vicious cycle. It may increase the cellular metabolism to such an extent that can destroy the cells. The normal value for calcium ion concentration in the extracellular fluid is 1.2 millimole per liter. The normal range for calcium ion concentration is 1 to 1.4 millimole per liter. When the value of calcium ion concentration falls below about 1/2 of normal, a person may experience tetanic contraction of muscles because of the spontaneous generation of excess of nerve impulses in the peripheral nerves. Conditions outside our body are changing all the time, but conditions within our body must be kept constant. For example, pH, body temperature, and water potential, etc. In other words, homeostasis must be maintained. Let's discuss what is homeostasis. The term homeostasis is derived from two Greek words. Homeo means unchanging or same. Stasis means standing still. This term was introduced in 1929 by an American physiologist, Walter Cannon. It can be defined as the maintenance of nearly constant conditions in the internal environment. Once the internal environment is stable, it allows an organism to be independent from changes in the external environment. Essentially, all organs and tissues of the body perform functions that help to maintain these relatively constant conditions. The various ions, nutrients, waste products, and other constituents of the body are normally regulated within a range of values rather than at fixed values. Let's discuss the different functional systems of the body and their contributions to homeostasis. The blood circulatory system. Extracellular fluid is transported through all parts of the body in two stages. The first stage is the movement of blood through the body in blood vessels. The second stage is the movement of fluid between blood capillaries and intercellular spaces between tissue cells. The walls of capillaries are permeable to most molecules in blood plasma, except large plasma proteins. With the exception of plasma protein molecules, large amounts of fluid and its dissolved constituents diffuse back and forth between the blood and the tissue spaces, as represented by the arrows over here. Few cells are located more than 50 micrometer from the capillary, which ensures diffusion of almost any substance from the capillary to the cell within few seconds. Let's discuss the origin of nutrients in the extracellular fluid. The respiratory system. When the blood flows through the lungs, it picks up oxygen in the alveoli. Fresh air enters by means of nasal passage or the oral cavity to the pharynx. From the pharynx, fresh air enters the trachea, the bronchi, bronchioles, and ultimately the alveoli. The alveoli are well equipped with blood capillaries. The blood capillary contains deoxygenated blood. Oxygen from the alveolus enters the blood capillary by means of diffusion. The oxygenated blood is transported to the heart and the heart pumps it to all parts of the body. Gastrointestinal tract. Food is digested and converted into soluble form by the gastrointestinal tract. When blood passes through the walls of the gastrointestinal tract, dissolved nutrients like glucose, fatty acids, and amino acids are absorbed from the ingested food into the extracellular fluid of the blood. Musculoskeletal system. It also plays a very significant role in maintaining homeostasis. It enables the body to move to the appropriate place at appropriate time to obtain food. It also provides motility for protection against adverse surroundings, without which the entire body, along with its homeostatic mechanisms, could be destroyed instantaneously. The availability of nutrients in the extracellular fluid plays a vital role. However, the removal of metabolic end products is also quite significant in maintaining homeostasis. Let's discuss removal of carbon dioxide by the lungs. Carbon dioxide is the most abundant of all the end products of metabolism. At the same time that blood picks up oxygen, carbon dioxide is released from the blood into the alveoli. From alveoli, carbon dioxide enters the bronchioles, bronchus, trachea, pharynx, and is ultimately exhaled by means of the nasal cavity or the oral cavity. Kidneys. When blood enters the kidneys, it removes most of the other substances from the plasma besides carbon dioxide that are not needed by the cells. These substances include end products of cellular metabolism like urea and uric acid. They also include excess of ions and water that might have accumulated in the extracellular fluid. Gastrointestinal tract. The gastrointestinal tract performs the function of digestion and absorption of nutrients. Along with that, the undigested material that enters the gastrointestinal tract and some waste products of metabolism are eliminated in the feces. Liver. Liver performs many functions. Among those functions is detoxification or removal of ingested drugs and chemicals. The liver secretes many of these wastes into the bile to be eventually eliminated in the fecal material. Various functions of the body are regulated by the nervous system. The nervous system is composed of three major components: the sensory input portion, the central nervous system, which is also known as the integrative portion, and the motor output portion. Sensory receptors detect state of the body or state of the surrounding. For example, skin receptors may detect pain, temperature, pressure, friction, or stretch. Eyes are the sensory receptors that give visual image of the surrounding area. Ears are also sensory organs that detect sound. All stimuli are transmitted to the central nervous system. The central nervous system is responsible for integrating sensory information and responding accordingly. The central nervous system is composed of brain and spinal cord. Brain plays a central role in control of most bodily functions, including awareness, movements, sensations, thoughts, speech, as well as memory. Some reflex movements can occur via spinal cord pathways without the participation of brain structures. The information is processed and appropriate signals are then transmitted through the motor output portion of the nervous system to carry out response. Body functions are also regulated by the hormonal system. There are 8 major endocrine glands in the human body that secrete chemical substances called hormones. Hormones are protein in nature and are transported in extracellular fluid to all parts of the body to help regulate cellular functions. For example, thyroid gland. Thyroid gland is found near the trachea and secretes thyroid hormone. Thyroid hormone increases the rate of most chemical reactions in all cells. The parathyroid gland secretes parathyroid hormone. Parathyroid hormone controls bone calcium and phosphate. Adrenal glands are found on the top of the kidneys. These glands secrete adrenocortical hormones. These hormones control sodium ion, potassium ion, and protein metabolism. Pancreas. Pancreas performs dual functions. It is exocrine as well as endocrine in nature. When the blood sugar level is high, the islet cells of pancreas release insulin. Insulin stores excess glucose in liver as well as muscles in the form of glycogen. When the blood sugar level is low, the islet cells of pancreas release glucagon. Glucagon stimulates the conversion of stored glycogen in liver to glucose. The glucose is then released into the bloodstream. Thus, hormones are a system of regulation that complements the nervous system. Hormonal system regulates many metabolic functions while the nervous system regulates muscular and secretory activities of the body. The body is protected against external threats by immune system. Immune system is a mechanism of defense that consists of white blood cells, tissue cells derived from white blood cells, the thymus, lymph nodes, and lymph vessels. This system protects the body from pathogens like bacteria, viruses, parasites, and fungi. The immune system provides a mechanism for the body to distinguish its own cells from the foreign cells and substances. Once foreign substances are detected, the immune system destroys the invader by phagocytosis or by producing sensitized lymphocytes or by specialized proteins, for example, antibodies that either destroy or neutralize the invader. The integumentary system also plays a significant role in defense of the body. The skin and its various appendages like hair, nails, glands, and other structures cover as well as protect the deeper tissues and organs of the body. The skin comprises about 12 to 15% of the body weight. It serves as a boundary between the body's internal environment and the outside world. Reproduction. Sometimes reproduction is not considered a homeostatic function, however, it helps maintain homeostasis. Reproduction generates new beings of its own kind to take place of those that are dying. Thus, in the final analysis, essentially all body structures are organized such that they help maintain the automaticity and continuity of life. Thank you.